What a wonderful piece of music that is. That's the traditional Christmas carol, What Child Is This?, set to the tune of Greensleeves. My name is Aaron Powell, and welcome to this edition of Guitar Guided Study on my Powell Guitar YouTube channel. What Child Is This? Was written in the year 1865, although it wasn't published until 1871. The author of the lyrics went through a sudden and very scary illness, which brought him to Christianity, and it's through that experience that he wrote the lyrics of the hymn. I found out during a little bit of investigating on this that actually there are people who think that William C. Dix is not the person who wrote the hymn, but we're just going to go with saying it is. It was in the hymnal that I grew up singing, and it's in another one at a church I work at now, so we'll call that good. Anyway, there's just a little bit more controversy about this piece, but then we'll get into learning it. The music is to the tune of Greensleeves, and so Greensleeves, of course, is a very, very, very famous tune. It's been around for a long time, and it was an old tune when Dix set this to the What Child Is This? So here's the big controversy. Going back even to my music history classes, I can remember it being talked about and aired that maybe possibly Henry VIII wrote this as a love song courting Anne Boleyn. If you know your history, you know how that thing all ended up. And so anyway, here's the deal. It sounds like it's probably not true. It's some sort of romanticized thing, because the reason is that Greensleeves wasn't published until 1580. And so Anne Boleyn dies in 1536. So I can't imagine that if Henry VIII wrote that, that it would sit for almost 40 years before being unpublished. I mean, not even like manuscripts of it survive. So anyway, it sounds like it was from the Elizabethan period. But anyway, enough of the controversy. Let's get to learning this piece of music. At this point, I would advise you to go ahead and number each and every one of the measures in the score that is available for download in the comment section of the YouTube video. I think that really keeps one on task, and it gets you really specific. That way you're not saying, oh, it's a couple measures after this spot. That way we know, hey, it's in measure 8 where I'm having the issue. That's a me thing, and any of my students will know that that's a me thing. So anyway, I would advise you to number those measures so you know what you're up to. You should come up with 32, by the way. The first layer of learning this piece of music that I will advise is to learn the melody. And I think that is extremely important, to go ahead and learn the melody. You can learn it by playing through chords and things like that, but I think just going through and playing the melody is super important in any piece. And so with this one, there's no real secret. The melody is in the top line the entire time. Don't get too bogged down in what the fingerings will be when you start using the chords as well. Just plunk out the melody. It goes like this. And so on and so forth. You get the idea. I would advise that you do that through the entire piece of music. I think that's a wise thing to do. Second, I think we ought to look for what's familiar in terms of the chord shapes that you end up playing through here. So what we'll do is we'll go through and play the chord shapes as they come about in the piece of music. We start off with A minor, C, G, E minor. Then we have A minor, just the intervals here, F and A, then E, A minor, C, G, E minor, A minor. Let's do E and G sharp. You could play an E chord, but I don't want you to get too wrapped up in that. I'll show you that later. Then A minor. The second half of the piece at measure 17, it's a C chord, but you're going to tack on a high G. It does not change the name of the chord at all. It's still a C chord. It's just a different voicing. So 2 C's, then a G, E minor, A minor. There's that F interval again, F and A on the third string, E, C chord, G in the top note, G, E minor, A minor, E and G sharp on the third string, and end with the A minor chord. So that's the harmonic progression of the whole thing. I think that's wise to walk through as well. Great way to learn, great way to get comfortable with a piece of music. So with measures 6 and 22, those both are going to be that F and the A. And so it's really important what we can do with that is we come from an A minor chord to begin with. This is measure 5. What I'm going to tell you to do is you're going to post off of this finger and move to your next task, which is the low F. Got it? So we call that an anchor finger, pivot finger, whatever you want to say, same difference. It's basketball season, we could call it a post finger, I guess, same thing. And the other thing that happens is in measure 14 and also measure 30. Cannot tell you over the years how many students have struggled with this passage, and there's usually one reason behind that, and it usually has to do with position. And so anyway, what we end up having is we have G sharp, then we have the F sharp, another G sharp, returning to A minor chord. The main thing is, these are the students that I usually have issues with this are usually people who maybe classical style playing is a bit new to them. And what I'll tell you is form, form, form. We want to use that rule of thumb, okay? What that is, that's going to be that the thumb and the middle finger, if the guitar neck wasn't there, you would make the OK symbol with your thumb and your middle finger. That's a great way to say that. So what's really important is that your thumb and your middle finger are right across from one another. If the neck wasn't there, they'd touch. And that gives you a building block of how to begin this section. The other thing I will say is that your thumb needs to be down on the lower part of the neck. I'll turn my instrument so you can see that here. So normal position would be here like this. What I'm telling you to do is to go way down like this so that you can reach what you need to reach. It's only for a brief moment, but it's really important. Otherwise, for a lot of us, that's hard to do. So here we go. This is 13. Okay? That should make that somewhat easier anyway. The last bit of this whole thing is a little bit about our right hand technique. I want to make sure that I say this so that it makes sense to a lot of people out there. In this piece, in this arrangement, we've got not only 3-note voicings, but we also have 4-note chord voicings. There is a couple of 5s in there because we strum the whole thing. But anyway, my point is this. A very common issue with a lot of players is that the thumb note and the outside finger, whether that's a PIM arpeggio, whether it's PIMA, P and A, a lot of times the thumb and the outside finger are really what ends up sounding through. And sometimes those middle voices get caught and we don't really quite hear them. So it's really important to make sure that we are hearing all 4 notes in a voicing. We can take it right away from the beginning chord, from the A minor, okay? Also, the thumb is a pretty powerful appendage, and you're going to be striking on the 5th string, which is bigger in mass than some of the other ones, and so it's not hard to understand why that ends up happening. We've got to have control, okay? Here it is. Here is the 4-note passage with out of balance thumb and ring finger. That's all you end up hearing. Okay, you can barely hear those middle things. Now, that doesn't sound bad. It's just the whole chord's written there. We want to hear I'm popping it a little extra hard. It's probably coming through that way too. So anyway, what you want to make sure you're doing is that you want to make sure that you are hearing those inner voices. What I tell my students, distort the balance of the chord shape with the right hand intentionally. Meaning, let's pull a little harder with index and middle, and let's hear more of those inner voices right now. So what that sounds like is this. And until you get that touch, it's challenging to do. I'm saying to actually hear that and then maybe brush the outside notes on there. Okay, like that. And you'll gain control with that after rehearsing the issue multiple times, I'm sure. Cannot stress the importance of arpeggio style exercises. Giuliani, Abejorro, Villalobos, study number 1. All of the above are great, and there's more than that too to be working on for sure. One last thing, if you're going to be playing this piece of music during the Christmas season, in a lot of hymnals it's in the key of E minor as opposed to how it's written. And so what you'll want to do, you'll want to capo clear up at 7, which I know looks a little bit ridiculous, but then at least you'll be in tune with the organ or the piano or whatever you're doing stuff with, and it will work. One final thought about interpretation. What Child Is This, or Greensleeves, is a piece of music that's in the minor mode. And so we hear a lot of the sad chords, sad cadences, stuff like that. One way to end a piece of music like this on the final cadence is, instead of doing a minor chord, doing a major chord at the end. It's a technique called the Picardy third. My understanding also, not to add more controversy to this, is that Picardy actually did not come up with that. He's just the person who became famous for it, but regardless. So what I'm saying to do is, if you're doing this around the holidays and you're doing the classic hymn, the 3-verse thing, it's a very nice effect at the very end to end the final chord with A major instead of A minor. That would sound like this. So we're coming from the this is Christ the King. So right here, end with A major. Very nice. Thanks for watching. Make sure to ring the bell, subscribe, stay tuned for updates. Merry Christmas and happy playing. Thanks so much for watching this Powell Guitar video hosted on YouTube. If you appreciate what you just saw, go ahead and give it a like. Also, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the bell to stay updated with all the latest videos. Check out my other social media presence located on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. We'll see you around, and happy playing.